How was your bond with her affected by that? My relationship with her ended after that. I doubt we had a particularly close friendship even before that. A devastating fact about Jon Gosselin's mother, Kate, has been finally revealed by Colin, who is her son. Suddenly, my mom started acting aggressively. No one would believe me, my mom assured me. Everybody has completely turned their backs on me. Colin courageously comes forward, after years of quiet and separation, to talk about the mental and physical abuse he suffered, including his forced institutionalization by Kate. The carefully crafted picture of the Gosselin family starts to fall apart as Jon battles to get his kid back and reveal the truth. This causes the public to doubt Kate's actions and the hidden truths of their broken family. Love him anyway. Never have. I never will. Face of the Gosselin family in the public eye. Jon and Kate +8 drew viewers into the Gosselin family's idyllic yet tumultuous lives for a long time. Having 8 children, twins, and sextuplets made Jon and Kate Gosselin famous, and their reality program showed the ups and downs of having a big family. As a mother, lauded for her straightforward methods, Kate stole the show. She was dedicated but firm, and loving yet severe. It appeared that way. The audience witnessed a famous mother hard at work as she claimed to be doing everything she could for the sake of her children while simultaneously handling the demands of celebrity and motherhood. However, one child's experience inside the Gosselin household was drastically different from what viewers saw on screen, thanks to the meticulous editing of the programs. The younger Gosselin brother was different from the rest. He wasn't the submissive sort. He exhibited traits of independence, curiosity, and defiance, according to Kate. When others chose to remain silent, he spoke up. Rules that were unclear to him were met with his resistance. A high price was paid for that. Discipline from Kate toward Colin differed from her treatment of the others. Instead of timeouts, he received severe scoldings. He received harsher punishments, where they were reprimanded. A pattern started to emerge, slowly but surely. Nobody made him feel like he belonged. He was handled as though he were an issue that needed fixing. That treatment only became worse as he aged. Kate played the role of the dedicated yet exhausted mother on screen. In private, Colin was made to look like the helpless kid she couldn't or wouldn't take responsibility for. And once Kate reached her breaking point, she discovered a means to permanently remove him. The hidden reality of the cameras. The foundation of reality TV is deception. What the viewer sees is the result of painstaking editing that builds a story that holds their attention. Also, no one knew how to manipulate a storyline like Kate Gosselin. From outside looking in, she appeared to be a strong but exhausted mother of 8, trying her hardest to keep the peace in her otherwise disorganized home. Although she came out as rigid, her rules, structure, and discipline were all motivated by love. That was the general consensus, however. Everyone was taken aback, though, when Colin came clean about a major secret regarding his mother. The reality show that brought fame to the Gosselins was filmed behind the scenes at their house, and the truth was much less favorable. Control was the true goal of Kate's regulations, not merely maintaining order. Moreover, Colin was the only child who repeatedly used that control. Colin had a hard time growing up under Kate's strict parenting style. He didn't act rebelliously enough to cause alarm. He only wanted to know more, so he asked questions when things didn't make sense and spoke out when he thought anything was wrong. Colin rebelled, in contrast to his siblings, who seemed to have an innate tendency to follow suit. Kate lived in a world where something was forbidden. There were only minor variations in treatment at first. The patience and tone with which Kate dealt with him had diminished. Colin was more severe with the kids when it came time for punishment. He was the go-to guy for taking the fall whenever things didn't go his way. But those little distinctions became something far more solitary as time went on. In addition to being punished, Colin felt estranged. Like Kate, his siblings started to regard him differently. They went along with her, because they were afraid to stand out, or because they thought he was the problem. When it came to the children in Kate's class, Colin stood out as the troublemaker and the one who didn't conform to the stereotype. Suddenly, he began to vanish from the show without a trace. Less and less often did he make an appearance. There were 7 kids instead of 8 on the family outing. None of the photos included him. There was no grand departure. No public statement or on-screen moment indicated that anything was amiss. Finally, one day, he vanished without a trace. Kate gave a straightforward description. According to what she told the media, Colin had special requirements and needed attention that she was unable to give at home. Most folks thought it made sense. A mother was acting in her child's best interest, choosing to do what is best for his health, even though it hurts. However, Colin, who was wrongfully incarcerated, knew the truth. This, he said in an interview, is why she is evil at her core. My mother used to lock me in that room she had constructed for me, securing my hands and ankles with zip ties. I would spend most or all of each day, sometimes even days there. It came as no surprise that this horrified many. Perplexed as to how the loving mother they witnessed on television could have been so terrible. Their perspective shifted, though, when they learned that Colin's expulsion was motivated not by his need for assistance, but by Kate's desire to have him removed. He waited for someone to take notice, for someone to rescue him, for 2 years while he endured in silence, far from his loved ones. After blindly trusting Kate's account of events, the world proceeded on. That is, until Colin figured out how to get in touch with her. When he did speak, his account disproved all prior assumptions about the Gosselins. Colin fights silently in solitude. For the vast majority of kids, their homes are like little kingdoms, a haven, where they are protected, loved, and cared for. However, Colin Gosselin found that his home had transformed into an oppressive control environment, where he was constantly watched, his inquiries were received with annoyance, and his mere presence was seen as an impediment. He felt distinct from his brothers, from a young age, not due to any inherent defect, but because Kate had picked him to be the tough one. There was no turning back once she made up her mind. The changes were subtle at first, with stricter discipline, longer punishments, and colder treatment. The distance, however, widened over time. He became an outcast among his siblings after they mimicked their mother's behavior. Isolation and an increasing feeling of dread gradually replaced the love he formerly felt among the family, whether due to a fear of upsetting Kate or simply because they had been taught to believe that Colin was the problem. Then, all of a sudden, he vanished without a trace. Kate had him committed to a mental institution. Everyone knew that raising 8 children was no picnic, so they mostly bought into her story. Very few people questioned the necessity of removing just one child. Few inquired as to the precise meaning of special needs in this setting. Even his own father had no say in the matter, and nearly no one wondered why. The inside of the institution was a desolate place for Collins. The facility where he was housed was far from a healing haven, in contrast to the idealized therapeutic settings shown in media. It served as a prison. He was not getting the individualized attention he needed to flourish. He had withdrawn from public view and was hiding somewhere. Time passed without any indication that anyone was paying attention to him. Days turned into nights. Weeks became months. Even though she had always portrayed herself as a doting mother figure, his mom had cut him out of her life entirely. His siblings, who either didn't know he was hurting or were too scared to question their mother's authority, treated him like a burden instead of a son and never tried to help. Outside, life went on as usual, and Colin had no idea whether anyone had even remembered him. Still, he would not accept that this was the conclusion to his narrative, no matter how depressing the isolation. He clung to the sliver of hope that his whereabouts was still of interest to someone. Finally, he seized the chance to communicate with the outside world, and he wasted no time doing so once he discovered how. Everything he had was now at risk. He finally found him when he contacted the one person who had relentlessly sought him out. The truth is revealed to Jon Gosselin. As Kate meticulously crafted the storyline surrounding the Gosselin family, revealing only her desired aspects to the world, Jon Gosselin stayed in the shadows, portrayed as the erratic absentee father who had abandoned his children. Except that Jon had always stayed put. Kate used her celebrity and carefully constructed image to obtain complete control in a contentious custody battle which he had lost badly. Consequently, he was no longer involved in his children's life. The news outlets accepted Kate's account of what happened. For a long time, Jon had little say in how his children were brought up, and she was very authoritarian. However, his concerns, particularly for Colin, persisted despite the physical separation. He had observed that Colin was treated differently since the children were tiny. He witnessed the gradual erosion of Kate's tolerance for him, the increase in the frequency of his punishments, and the harshness of her language toward him. Jon had always sensed that Colin mirrored himself in his inquisitiveness and gregariousness. Jon admired his son's independence, but Kate regarded it as rebellion. Kate came from a family that did not tolerate disobedience.